At the dawn of life on Earth, approximately 3.5 billion years ago, a war began. A war that is still going on to this day. A war in which trillions upon trillions of lives have been lost. A war between bacteria and the deadliest creatures on planet Earth, the bacteriophage. Now, what exactly is a bacteriophage? Well, for starters, it's a virus. A virus that kind of looks like a 20-sided die on a long pole. Now, this pole is the tail of the bacteriophage, and it's connected to 6 little legs like this. And it's very strange looking, and you might think it's made up, but it's real. In fact, there are so many bacteriophages that if all other organisms, including bacteria, are put together, there'd still be more phages. In fact, they're on every single surface of the earth, including on your hands. Look at the person on the screen next to you. At any given moment, they're covered head to toe with these phages. They're absolutely everywhere. Now you might be wondering, oh no, they're everywhere. Are we all gonna die? Because they're a virus, right? And there's this whole pandemic going on, the coronavirus. But never fear. Bacteriophages are a virus that only infect bacteria, not humans. Human cells are so vastly different from bacteria cells that these phages can never evolve to infect humans. They strictly infect bacteria. In fact, they are such proficient killers of bacteria that every day they kill 40% of the ocean's bacteria. That's trillions of bacteria. And to think, if these phages didn't do this, our world's oceans would be covered in thick green mats, like pond scum, that would block out the light for the rest of the marine life. But what do they exactly do? And well, how do they exactly work? Well, when a bacteriophage goes through the world, encounters a bacteria, it uses its little legs to latch onto the bacteria. Then, with its tail, it does its weird little jiggly dance and injects its genetic material into the bacteria. In essence, the phage is basically hacking the bacteria like a computer, and it forces the bacteria to make more copies of the phage until eventually the bacteria goes and millions of bacteriophages go into the world. But why do we care? Why do we care about some random, insignificant thing that we can't even see and doesn't even bother us? Well, to understand this, we need to look at the history of bacteria themselves. In the 1920s and earlier, bacteria were one of the main causes of human death. They were one of the deadliest things to us back in the day. This can be quite a normal scene. La, 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 la. Oh no, I cut my finger. And 3 days later, you'd be dead. This is quite a normal scene. A small cut, a small scrape. If it got infected, you had 2 options. A, pray to God that you would survive, or B, amputate. And it was really dangerous. In fact, one of the deadliest diseases to ever plague humanity, the bubonic plague, was caused by a bunch of bacteria. But then, in 1928, we developed a superweapon. We developed the atomic bomb of medicine. We created something called antibiotics. Now, we finally had a weapon to fight these evil creatures. The bacteria could be like, and we could be like, kaboom, and win. You could actually survive. It was a miracle. It was eureka. It was wow. But there was one problem. In recent years, bacteria have been evolving. Thanks to our overuse of antibiotics, these bacteria are gaining immunity to antibiotics to be able to nullify their effects. They're becoming stronger than ever, and these so-called superbacteria are called superbugs, and they're unstoppable killing machines. Antibiotics can't stop them. Nothing can stop them. And oftentimes when you get them, there's nothing you can do. The age where bacteria ruled is returning thanks to our misuse of antibiotics. In 2017, a man by the name of Tom Patterson was infected with an antibiotic-resistant strain of the bacteria Acinetobacter baumannii in his abdomen. The doctors were utterly perplexed. They didn't know what to do. Whatever treatments they did, nothing worked. And eventually, Tom lost hope, and his condition deteriorated so much that he entered a coma. And just like Tom, every year, 700,000 people die due to superbugs. At these rates, deaths caused by superbugs are set to rise exponentially until by 2050, where it's estimated that 10 million people will die each year due to these superbugs. That's more than the current death toll of cancer. So what do? Do we just wait for this bad bacteria apocalypse to come and go hide under our rocks and be like, oh, please spare me, bacteria? Or do we do something about it? Well, there is a solution that was discovered, lost, and then rediscovered. In the 1940s, countries, especially in Eastern Europe, were looking into bacteriophages to see if they could be used as a form of antibacterial remedy. This so-called phage therapy went something along the lines of this. If we take a bunch of viruses, i.e. bacteriophages, and inject it into our body, the bacteriophages will go through the body and find the bacteria and kill the bacteria and leave the rest of the body alone, theoretically. However, as antibiotics became more and more advanced, this phage therapy was abandoned. Now, the phage therapy, to simplify things, imagine your body it's like a city. You've got good bacteria living in it. You've got bad bacteria, and obviously you've got the city. Well, antibiotics, they're the super weapon, the atomic bomb. They kill absolutely everything, including the necessary good bacteria, the bad bacteria, and even the city. For example, the antibiotics that were supposed to work against Tom's bacteria also resulted in some pretty serious kidney damage. However, bacteriophages, they're like guided missiles that specifically target the bad bacteria and leave everything else alone. That's why they're so effective. Out of desperation, doctors began looking into this phage therapy to see if it could help out Tom, who was now on his deathbed. And so they took a couple thousand bacteriophages, which, according to some lab tests, were proven to work against that specific strain of bacteria that he was plagued with, and they injected it directly into his chest cavity. And lo and behold, in a few weeks, he was completely healed. It had worked. Now you may be thinking, hang on, if a bacteria can become resistant to an antibiotic, what stops them from becoming resistant to a bacteriophage? Well, here's the thing, they're both living creatures. So as bacteria evolve to become better than the bacteriophages, the phages can then evolve to become better than the bacteria. In essence, it's a constant arms race between the two to see who can get the upper hand on the other. And let's say a bacteria somehow does become resistant to a certain strain of bacteriophage. Recent studies have shown that when a bacteria increases its immunity to bacteriophages, it decreases its immunity to antibiotics. In essence, it's a scam for the bacteria. The bacteria can be like, I'm a cool kid now, I'm with the bacteriophages. And then it's scammed and killed by antibiotics. This is why it's so important to learn about these microscopic creatures called bacteriophages. They can really help us in this war against bacteria. In fact, you can help too. According to the CDC, about 1/3 of antibiotic use is completely unnecessary. And all it does is build immunity for the bad bacteria. We have an antibiotic problem in the first place because of people like us, you and me, people who use really powerful antibiotics for the most mundane things, like allergies, or the common cold, or even stomach bugs. Or from people who stop taking antibiotics after their symptoms disappear, even if they're prescribed to continue. All these things help out the bad bacteria and only make them grow stronger. However, by only taking antibiotics, only when a doctor tells them, recommends them to you, and following their exact instructions, we can make a huge difference. We can halt the creation of superbugs. We can prevent that 10 million deaths that's predicted in the future caused by superbugs. We can save lives. And for the superbugs that do exist today, bacteriophages can beat them. So even though it may seem really dismal that some apocalypse of microscopic creatures is eventually coming, we can win. We can win against those bad bacteria. Us, ordinary people, you and I, can beat these bacteria with a little help from our microscopic friend, the bacteriophage. Thank you.